Hey everyone, good afternoon. Ryan talking here from the Black Room. Hope everybody's having a good day. I wanted to do part three of the scanning series I've been doing this week. The day one we talked about we talked about scanning for gaps, getting a gaps list together for the open, which today was another pretty short list as far as the gaps list. And then yesterday we talked about scanning for relative strength, relative weakness, scanning for additional gaps, gap barriers, gap bullies, the scanning that I do roughly between 10 o'clock and 10:30. And then that list I carry throughout the rest of the day. And then after lunchtime, I start scanning for 15-minute patterns. Right, so most of the patterns that I go after are really applicable to any time frame, right? And so the 15-minute patterns, and I'm not going to get too deep into pattern recognition because we do teach a lot of courses on that. And I think that's a little bit, I'll get too far into the weeds as far as the scanning aspect, which is what the focus is. But I'm scanning for patterns that look similar to this, right? We get a wide range igniting bar, then we're kind of basing sideways here, right? The other one that I'm watching is the MTDR, which is a 15-minute sell setup here on a gap down like this morning. Mentioned that this was lower here. The pattern wasn't that good, so I didn't end up taking it. But this actually looks really good, especially after the shakeout. Yeah, looks really good. I don't know if it's going to break this 31-34, but yeah, so these are kind of the patterns that I'm looking for, right? 15-minute patterns. So I wanted to, let me just put this on a chart, MTDR, in front of me here. But I wanted to focus on the scanning aspect and what that looks like, and how I scan for 15-minute patterns. Okay, so I have a stock universe, which is what we talked about, and the stock universe roughly has I'd say about 1,100 stocks in it, right? The stock universe is derived from basically stocks that do roughly 250,000, 300,000 shares a day on average volume, and then I weed out some of the stocks that I'm not going to day trade, or some of the stocks that they just don't set up right, candlestick wise, right? Like the STMP, which when I was scanning, I just noticed that this STMP normally on the 15-minute chart's really spotty, as we can see here. Right, so I'm probably going to remove this from my stock universe just for how it trades, right? So I have the stock universe, and then what I do for 15-minute patterns is I haven't had too much success developing a scan that automatically sifts stocks out, and so the best thing for me to do is to create a couple workspaces with a couple arrays of groups of stocks so I can look at the 15-minute patterns. Okay, so that's kind of what we're going to dive into today. All right, so I created a couple workspaces, and before I jump into that, let me see if I can just open up. Okay, so this is NinjaTrader, this platform that I'm using, right? I think that you guys can see this, and these are 1 through 8 are my 15-minute workspaces, all right? The first thing you'll see is that they're broken down into different sectors, right? And so inside this first workspace is an array of, it depends, like some are larger than others, but roughly from 75 to, I think like the biggest one is maybe like 120 stocks, right? Inside of each sector here, right? So I think the array that I took a screenshot of, which I'll show you next, I believe it's this 8th one, right, which is semis, communication, internet, computer, software, all right? So I break down the stocks inside of different sectors, and then I'm going to look for 15-minute patterns, and I'm going to look at them inside of the sectors. Okay, so those are the workspaces that I have. Now let me see if I can switch over and see. Okay, hopefully you guys should be able to see this picture. I know that it looks a little bit skewed, but I'm going to zoom in here. So basically on the right over here, if you can see this, I have 6 monitors here, then I have one 4K monitor, and then I have a smaller monitor over here. The 4K monitor right here I use for multiple time frame alignment. This one I use for swings, and the left side of this monitor I use for swings as well. And then these are kind of the 6 monitors that I'm really kind of trading off of. Alright, so I just kind of populate these monitors with the stocks that are within that sector, okay? And then I put a couple blank charts to break up the sectors, okay? So let's zoom in here. This is kind of the array of, when I open up one of these workspaces, this is what I get, right? So I get, roughly 75, 80, 100 stocks or whatever, and they're all on 15-minute time frames, okay? I'll go into a couple things that I found out that make this a little bit easier. I just want to zoom in here, and, okay, so all right, you guys should be able to see this, right? So here's one monitor, and these are, we got Microsoft here, so these are software companies, right? So when I'm looking at this, it doesn't take that long at all. I mean, it takes like maybe 20 minutes for me to go through all 8 workspaces and to scan, right? And so what I'm looking for is I'm looking for those 15-minute patterns that we trade in the black room that we're familiar with, right? And as I'm looking at those, I took this picture, I believe, yesterday. So this isn't, this isn't today's. I'm pretty sure it was yesterday, right? So this isn't live or anything. This is just a picture I took for the scanning video, and so what I'm looking at is I'm looking for the patterns that I'm familiar with, but I'm also looking for inherent weak stocks in the sector, right? So when I look at this page, one thing immediately jumps out to me is this IRM is weaker than any other thing here, right? And ZEN is probably the strongest. All right, so let's go down to the next monitor here. Yeah, a couple other stocks are strong, like this RHT here. Yeah, RHT, CRM are probably the strongest here, right? But there's one thing that immediately jumps out at me, and that's this IRM, which is trying to do a 15-minute sell setup here. It's not the best 15-minute sell setup, but this is something that I would write down, right? And so this is why for me, this is why it's important that I group all of these 15-minute charts by sector, and then within that, I look for 15-minute patterns. Okay? So that's a picture that I took. Let me go back to my charts here. Okay. Looks like that MTDR is moving up. Okay, it looks like it may fail here. Okay, so back to the charts. One other thing that, so I have the layout of 15-minute patterns. I group them by sector, right? And then as I'm scanning through there, one thing, and I don't know if you can do this on all platforms, but you probably can. And one thing that helped me a lot is it takes a lot on my memory and CPU to load all of these charts, right? I think I have an i7, and I forget how much memory I have. I think I have 32, right? So it does draw a lot to load these charts. But let me just pull up a chart here, right? And a couple things, and I don't know if you can do this, but it took me a while to kind of figure this out, so I figured I'd share it with you, is that, so I have templates here, and, okay, so this is 15-minute, and so this is what a 15-minute template looks like for me, and I believe, yeah, I didn't update it recently, but this is what I'll do, is I'll go to days to load, and I'll put 3 in there, okay? So, what in that update here? Okay, so normally, I don't know why it didn't update there, but normally I'll have to look at it again. But on my 15-minute arrays, it only loads 3 days worth of data. So it doesn't load 50 like it normally does. So that saves a lot, that it only loads 3 days worth of data. I make everything else smaller because I'm just looking at the patterns. I only keep 2 moving averages, the 200, the 20 MA price. I removed volume out of this when I'm scanning. I do use volume on my charts, but while I'm scanning, I'm just looking for patterns, right? So I took the toolbar off, took everything off, so I just have nice clean charts, right? They only load 3 days worth of data, and the reason why they have 3 days worth of data is because I want them to load on Monday. I want them to load Fridays as well. So I need to span the weekend. Otherwise, the moving averages will get messed up if you're only loading 1 day's worth of data. So I load 3 days worth of data, so Monday's charts are good. That cuts down a lot, or eliminating all the extra stuff cuts down on the use of the CPU and memory, so the arrays load faster. And then the last thing is they only update, I think, every 5 seconds. Right, so the charts only update every 5 seconds instead of the typical, I forget what I have it set at, but it's like, I don't know, maybe 100th of a second or something like that. Right, let me see if I can, I don't know exactly where it is, but it took me a while to find it. But I set the time that they update, yeah, right here. So you can change the display update interval in seconds, right? And I think that on it's 1/100th of a second on the charts that I'm trading off of, but I'll set it to every 5 seconds as far as the 15-minute patterns, right? So those are a couple things that help me with the setting up the array of charts so they load faster, okay? So this video is a little bit quicker, but I know that a lot of people ask about scanning 15-minute charts. There's a couple other websites out there, like I know FinViz, you can scan 15-minute charts on there, but you can't have moving averages and stuff. So I really use the 20 MA as far as the array of charts, which I think is really helpful. Right, so when I'm looking at something like this, but I just wanted to show you guys a picture of what this looks like. A couple helpful tips that if you are struggling pulling up like 80 different charts, 100 different charts at once, and especially if you're, because I want to flip through 8 of these workspaces one after another, you can make a couple fine-tune adjustments so it doesn't pull as much on your computer, and it also doesn't pull as much data as well, so it'll speed up the process, because I don't need to see every single trade that's going off when I'm scanning on the 15-minute time frame, right? So wanted to share that with you guys. And yeah, I mean, we trade 15-minute charts in the afternoon in the black room. Anything that, there's a specific patterns that we look for that we talk about every day. So if you're interested in scanning 15 minutes, come check us out in the black room. But I just wanted to show you guys what this looks like as far as scanning. And it's a very quick process. I mean, it takes me normally, if I'm not doing anything else, it takes me between 20 and 25 minutes. Normally to scan through all of these 1,200 stocks, right? Roughly 1,100, 1,200 stocks, whatever they are. So hopefully this was helpful. As always, stay in process. This was scanning for 15-minute patterns, and tomorrow we'll conclude this with carrying over the gaps list and closing out the rest of the day. I'll probably talk a little bit about how I scan before the close as well. All right. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it. Hope you guys have a great day, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.